So we want to go back to the floor of the vote, maybe wrapping up. Let's see where they are in the vote right now. Vote has been completed. They're about to announce the final tally. As I said at the top, 5 Republican senators voted against dismissing the case on the opening day, a motion made by Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. We'll see what the final total is here. And of course, this all comes ahead of the actual arguments in the case on the substance of what happened. We're about to get the announcement right now.
The yeas are 56 and the nays are 44, and then Elizabeth will have something to do.
On this vote, the yeas are 56, the nays are 44, and pursuant to S. 47, the Senate having voted in the affirmative on the foregoing question, the Senate shall proceed with the trial as provided under the provisions of that resolution.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader,
I ask unanimous consent that the trial adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow, Wednesday, February 10th, and that this order also constitute the adjournment of the Senate.
Without objection, we shall stand in adjournment until noon tomorrow.
56 senators voted. That meant that we have 6 Republicans who voted that this trial could go forward. Mary Bruce, I believe that was Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who's now added his vote to the 5 Republicans voted against dismissal early on.
Yeah, George, that is what we believe, and that is somewhat of a surprise. Obviously, we knew that Romney, Collins, Murkowski, Toomey, and Sass were likely to stick with their previous vote. Cassidy now, it seems, is also siding with them. That will, give Democrats some hope there to see one more Republican side with Democrats. We haven't seen any kind of statement from him to explain his change of heart yet, but it does make you wonder what happened in the last several days and in the last several hours to make him change his mind here to move ahead with this question of constitutionality of this trial. And of course, a reminder of what we didn't hear from the president's team here today was any detailed defense of the president's actions. I think the fact that you have 6 Republicans now willing to go forward is telling, but of course 6 is still a far cry from the 17 that they will need. And most, even those Republicans who have condemned strongly the president's actions, who have said he bears responsibility, that he provoked the mob that marched on the Capitol, still have argued that they do not feel that this is constitutional. And that gives Republicans some political cover in many ways. It allows them to walk this fine line by seemingly voting to acquit or likely voting to acquit while not having to make a judgment call on President Trump, which, of course, is why this is going to be so difficult for so many Republicans as they grapple with the former president's power over their party going forward. But it will be interesting to hear from Senator Cassidy, certainly, why he changed his mind, nor that gives Democrats any hope that they may be able to change some other minds in the coming days, George.
That will be the question. Okay, Mary Bruce. Kate Shaw, we were interrupted for the final vote before you got a chance to assess the lawyering of the Trump's team.
It was pretty uneven. The House managers, I think, as we said earlier, gave an extremely effective presentation on the law, the Constitution, and to a degree, kind of the facts and what was at stake in terms of accountability in the Constitution. And the president's defenders were pretty muddled and meandering, made arguments that you couldn't rely on British history when interpreting the Constitution, when that's a very well settled mode of constitutional interpretation. In fact, most conservative legal lights rely heavily on pre-constitutional history and British practice. There was some ignoring of our constitutional history, the Belknap post-removal or post-departure impeachment in 1876 was sort of absent from the presentation. And then there was sort of cherry picking of some of the sources in the same way you saw in the brief. So, I think it's interesting that there was any movement at all on the Republican side. And in a way, this is a separate vote than the vote on actual culpability. But of course, as Mary was saying, the idea that a lot of these senators will say there's no jurisdiction and will use that as a reason to to vote to acquit without really taking a position on the kind of substantive merits of the case the impeachment managers are bringing, I think seems like a real possibility. But we'll see how this plays out in the coming days. I think it was a very interesting sort of opening presentation from each side.
The baseline vote for Republicans now 6. I want to bring in Rahm Emanuel before we go. So the votes may be baked in the end. There may 17 votes to convict may be too high a bar. Clearly, the Democrats didn't even feel the need to respond to the Republican argument on the constitutionality after they made their opening case. And Rahm, it seemed pretty clear that they were looking over the heads of the senators to the American people as much as they were making the argument directly to the jurors in that room.
Now, there's no doubt. George, here's the thing. The Republicans in that room are big losers because they're in a quagmire. They can't support what the president did, and they can't separate themselves from President Trump. I mean, they can't support President Trump's actions, and they cannot separate themselves from President Trump. And they're desperate to get out of this quagmire they're in. I think the big winner today, I would tell you, is Joe Biden. One of the premises of his candidacy was, I'm going to turn the temperature down. When you look at that film, you really realize how bad America was versus the calmness in the water that exists under Joe Biden. And I'll just say this, a first-year law student could do better than that team. I bet you Trump is walking around Mar-a-Lago throwing things against the wall, given what was gone there. A first-year student would do better than that. And if that's his team going through here, while the outcome may be known, that is not the best case argument to be presented.
Rahm Emanuel, thanks very much. We're going to go back to our regular programming right now. World News Tonight with David Muir, of course, is coming up. We'll be back for the trial tomorrow. As you heard Senator Schumer there say, they're going to be convening again at 12 noon to go directly through the Democrats' arguments on the underlying case against President Trump, the second impeachment trial of President Trump. We will be back there full-time tomorrow for that. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.